Greetings, people. Welcome to another show of Don't Judge the Book by the Author. Today I have a very special guest, a local guest, a young author, Hackney Authorian. I'm joking. Hackney author, sistering, doing some positive work in the community, helping to heal minds and scars and wounds, and yeah, none other than Yolanda Lear. I would like to present. How you doing, my sister?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well.
Pleasure to have you here. Pleasure to have you here. What a journey. What a journey. What a journey has been. The Undefeated Mind. I've said what a journey is. The name of the book is The Journey to an Undefeated Mind, but I've always had Undefeated Mind in my head as the title. But the first thing I said when I started this was what a journey, because I've seen your journey, and when I first saw you, I believe, if I'm 100% sure, and I might not be right because I'm never certain when I first meet people, but I believe it was via Facebook, I might be wrong, and I believe it was via a poem that you did live, I might be wrong, but I remember liking that poem a lot, thinking there's a lot of substance to it. Now, in your book, I won't say too much about it, there is a bit of poetry, and I just want to say that's how you first came on the scene, so yeah, tell people a bit about yourself, who you are.
Cool. So, like I said, my name's Yolanda Lear. I am self-published author, also a project lead and interim director for an organisation called Account, which is basically just starting up. It's like a social justice movement, I would say, where we basically empower the community about their rights when it comes to police, how to deal with stop and search, all of these kind of things. We've recently gone independent, so it's a journey literally that we've been on for about a year now, and just building that, and then also been setting up my own business, the Undefeated Minds. That's probably why you have the Undefeated Minds as like main, and obviously if you can see, it's the biggest bit on the actual cover as well. So yeah, and then I do poetry, I do a bit of music. I recently just got back into doing music as well, so yeah.
So are you a musician, a poet, or author first? I know you're all three combined, but which one are you first?
It's a good question. I'd probably say poet or musician, because that's what started my journey into writing. I didn't really have any ambitions to actually write a book at the start of it. I would probably say like maybe a year before writing my book, I had an idea to write a book, but it had nothing to do with this.
What it is.
Yeah, and then that journey happened where it just happened.
Manifested itself naturally. Yeah, well, that's dope. I wanted to know if I was right about two things. One of them being your surname. Did I pronounce it right?
Yolanda Lear.
So can you say it again?
Yolanda Lear.
Yolanda Lear, just to make sure.
King Lear.
And was I right in saying when I first came across you?
I believe it was that.
Okay.
I believe, but it's been a while, so I don't.
Did I make contact? I've got a feeling that I made contact and bigged you up. I'm not 100% sure, but I just feel like.
Yeah, I think so, because then it was afterwards I found out you was an author and all of that as well. So yeah. Cool. Well, I don't know when that was. Yeah, it's good.
Can't remember. I don't know what it was. All I know is that I remember your poems, and you being really good at them. But before we get onto your work, I want to know a few of your favourite authors, if you have any, if you're a reader yourself.
You know, I wouldn't say like I was like someone who reads often. I would dibble and dabble into reading.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I had like a favourite author either.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't read before writing?
I think like just growing up in school, being forced to read, and it's things that I just couldn't relate to, authors I couldn't relate to. Usually when it's forced on me as well, I'm known to be quite stubborn. So when you're telling me to do something and I don't have the desire or the passion to do it, I just won't do it. So there was that element as well.
Yeah. Did that come from school or from home?
I think a mixture.
Because I know in most people's home, They got Richard was talking about the other day as well, making a joke that when we was younger, we was told go and get a book and read, and when you connect that with, I don't know, a punishment rather than something that can fulfill you, you're not going to ever really be.
It was a mixture.
As well as school being that's why I asked where did it come from most, because if it was being encouraged at home in a holistic way and in that school.
Yeah, no, we got told to read a dictionary at home. So like, it weren't something that,
wow.
like, but to be fair, like, when I look back at it, if I did it, because I refused to do it, but if I did it at the time, it probably would be beneficial, because it was like read a word a day and like kind of study what it meant. And then maybe like at the end of the week, my stepdad would probably try and quiz us, and I wasn't too fond of a lot of things at that time, so
that being one of the main ones.
I just didn't do it. But then I look at like my younger brother, like my sister for instance, and I would see like maybe their vocabulary, and it's a lot more bigger than mine.
Broader,
but also could be stubbornness again, but I've kind of prided myself in not expanding it, and it's weird to say, but I feel like I can connect to a lot more people if I'm not using big words. And it's not that I don't know the big words or I'm not going to go and study. Like if I come across it, I might research it or whatever, but when I write, I like to try and make it as like simple as possible, because not everyone studied the dictionary as a child, or not everyone's vocabulary, they had the opportunity to expand their vocabulary.
I think it's a weird thing I'm about to say, because I don't know if I've ever said this out loud before, but I can relate. And I feel like it's when I say relate, I can relate to struggling with a vocabulary, supposedly being dyslexic. I don't know if I claim that as a title. However, a part of the dyslexic title, I believe, is connected to, although I was born in this country, England not being my mother tongue. And because it's not my mother tongue, I think that's one of the reasons why, and I know this is going to sound probably bizarre to a few people, why I've never really attached to even reading the books, Once Upon a Time and all the rest of it. Same with the Bible. I'm not saying I don't believe it is the word, but it's the way it's presented. Now, if it was done in my mother tongue, so to speak, which is a language I don't understand, or Bayesian accent, or if it was written in, I'll be honest with you, if the Bible was written in Bayesian accent and wording, I don't know if I would ever leave the Bible alone, because I would catch joke at the same time as catching wisdom and knowledge and all the rest of it. So I understand what you're saying, and it does restrict us. It makes us put a wall up. So I feel like as a youth, I had the same issue of what is it? How to speak. Rejecting learning new things when it came to words, because it just felt not like the words I would use to describe that thing. And that's why I say maybe it's not that it's your mother tongue, or maybe we're just ignorant to it. I don't know what it is.
I think it's a mixture. I think like maybe growing up, it's that element of being ignorant, because that's what everyone else tells you you are. You know, I use the term stubborn because that's what my mum and my parents and my family would tell me growing up. I'm stubborn. That you kind of own the label, but as I've gotten older, I also said passion, things that I'm passionate about. So I would stick to that, because I know, alright, cool, I'm not going to sit down and study the dictionary because this is the Queen's English apparently. I don't relate to this, and 9 times out of 10 I probably won't use any of these words when I'm talking anyway. I probably can, and if I'm depending on who I'm speaking to, then I might decide to use more, as they call Queen's English, or sophisticated words.
See, I had the same thing, so I've got like a mixed view on even the last statement that I made in terms of being, or if you like to use the word stubborn for now, as or rebellious. I think would be rebellious is the right term, to wanting to understand the English language. However, I do think it's crucial as people who are born here, and whether your background is English as your parents or whatnot, to learn the language we live here. So, especially as a writer, I don't like to share my secret weapons with anyone, but I'm going to share it on a podcast because it's one of my secret weapons, and even though it's something I rarely use, so I know it's not what carries me through as a writer. The same thing you're talking about, reading the word from the dictionary. It's crucial. Now, mind you, I've never got past halfway to the letter A in doing this. So I've read the same parts over and over. I could tell you a lot of words mean from the letter A, but go past A, we got a problem because I've never been consistent with it. But there's not enough hours in the day. If I was in a place where I had the time, and I don't want to be in certain places to have that time, but yeah, I would make the most of the dictionary. 100%. The same with the Bible, same with the Quran, whatever it is. Being, I don't know, where I don't have the time, I'm forcing myself now. I'm making the time. So I do find it so important that even after having a conversation with you, it's a reminder to me that you know what, you're slacking in terms of your vocabulary. Why is it important? Because although it might not be your natural tongue or the way you speak, I think that I've got the ability to touch the world. And in order to touch the world, I need to communicate with the world. So after I learn English, I might learn Mandarin type of thing. I might write books in different languages because I genuinely believe that as an author, there's no limit. There's no limit, and the more you can understand, the better living experience you can have. And I used to be perceived as an angry child. I think part of that has to do with the lack of vocabulary that I had. Not being able to say where I was coming from or how I felt when something was, or if someone was being narcissistic, I couldn't tell you as a child. But Missy's being, or Mummy's being. I couldn't express that. Probably just punch in your face, like to deal with that anger, or sorry, or I would swear. So the whole point I'm making is that learning dictionary is a powerful tool. So big up your people for teaching you that.
But I think it has to be something that, not, I guess, for everyone, because everyone learns differently.
Visual learners. For
the likes of myself, I'm a practical learner, but I will sit down and read a dictionary when I want to, when I have that mindset. But if I'm being told to do it, and there's no joy in it, or I don't, at the time, I can't see the rewards in doing it, I'm going to struggle to do it.
You're gonna rebel. What's similar?
That was my issue growing up.
Cool.
When it comes to reading.
I get that. What's three of your favourite authors? Oh, you did say you didn't have three of your favourite, did you?
I wouldn't say that. Do you know what it is? I struggle to remember names.
Yeah.
So like, The Secret is a book that...
Rhonda Brines, that is. Rhonda Brines. Wow, she's right behind you.
That was one of the books that actually probably started like this journey of unlocking my mind for me. Tapping into the power within. That was another, and I always struggle to remember the author's name as well. But
I don't know if I got it right. Do you want to grab it? Rhonda Brines, did I say it right? Brines? Is it Brines?
I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Oh, it might be Rhonda Byne. I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't think. Rhonda Byrne. Big her up anyway. The Secret. I'm sure you'll know about this. Everyone knows about this book. This book doesn't need much promoting. Yeah, it's definitely done a lot of DVDs. And for those who don't know, it's about manifesting the positive things in your mind, and what you manifest is what realities you create for yourself.
Definitely. So that one, Tapping into the Power Within, as I said, I don't remember the author's name, but that was another book.
Say that again?
Tapping into the Power Within.
Is that Anthony Robbins? Could you Google that?
No, it's a female author.
Yeah, guys, carry on. Tapping into the Power Within. That sounds familiar. What's that one about?
It's basically it's similar to understanding your mind, understanding that we are powerful beings, but on a spiritual level, and then basically getting yourself to focus on like the routines, the habits. So it's similar as to like things I kind of touch on in my book.
I was about to ask you.
So her name's Yolanda Vanzant.
Yolanda Lear.
So no wonder you didn't remember it.
Yolanda Lear.
So it's Iyanla. Iyanla Vanzant.
I can't say it. I can never say it properly.
Yeah, I always struggle.
Yolanda Lear is
Tapping
if you turn around again
power.
and
Tapping
up from here, the
power.
orange book
Which one?
on your right. Orange book, yeah.
Tapping the power within.
So she's one of my favourite authors. Yolanda
Oh,
Lear.
nice.
I want to say a shout out to her just for inspiring again. This is another lady you've inspired. Fixed my life. You fixed a lot of people's lives. I wasn't happy the way you treated DMX because I love him, but yeah, no, I understand that everyone needs to be treated differently. But yeah, Yolanda Lear, powerful author, super woman. There's no words I can use to describe her, and she's obviously influenced you alongside Rhonda Byrne, I think it is. So these are the two books, and these two books I don't want to say are the parents to this book. They have given birth to a book I want to talk about right about now called The Journey to an Undefeated Mind. And this book was written by the sister that we're with right now. The Undefeated Mind, people. So you were saying?
Yeah, no, those are, I would say, is like the two main ones, and then completely different when you also have it as well, the Art of War. That's another book that
I like that book.
Yeah,
I feel like you cheated though.
no,
I feel like you cheated. I feel like you came here and you saw the books in the bookshelf and you said, I'm going to
that's
use
literally, if
I'm
you go in my house right
That's
now and you walk
easier
into
free.
my front room, it's literally right next
Easy
to my
free.
laptop.
Oh, just this one?
Art of War. Secret is in my front room, but
Alright, cool.
but the
So
Art
now,
of War, and it's
you're a powerful reader, to be honest with you.
Yep.
like for me, when I read, I need to gain something from it. If I'm just like reading fairy tales and all of that, I don't really take anything from it. It's nice, you obviously to expand your vocabulary and all of that. It's good to read, but everything I do, I need to get something from it, whether it's on a spiritual level, because at the end of the day, reading is effort. I'm pouring into whatever I'm reading as well. So I need to be able to get back at the same time. So when I'm reading, like those books for me was just like, okay, mindset. Obviously, Art of War it speaks about the mindset as well. It speaks about studying the people around you, obviously the enemies in terms of that, and just preparing yourself properly for that. And then obviously the secret again is manifestation, but it's mindset. Tapping into the power within is recognizing that we are all powerful beings. The world tells us that we ain't, it suppresses us, it tells us to go to schools and all of that, but at the end of the day we are powerful beings, and when we're able to unlock that power within, then there's no stopping what we can do.
Powerful. And that's, it sounds like an author I like, Anthony Robbins. I don't know where the book is, Unleash the Power Within. That's why I asked you, Anthony Robbins.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, because it sounds like you have the same passion within you to unleash people's minds like he does, and he's a very powerful speaker and author in that field. So for me to compare you to him, I don't know how you know or what you know about him, but yeah, that's someone I'm comparing this book to. So yeah, we're gonna get into this book now. It's an amazing piece of artwork that you've done, put together, and it's good for multiple reasons. But The Journey to an Undefeated Mind by Yolanda Lear. Sorry. Let's get right into it. It is a book used to help inspire others to take the journey to overcome mental health. It's about all the lessons and blessings you gain from this journey. Realizing that yes, in life we may fall, we may fail, we may take L's, but we'll never be defeated if we keep on going. The book is about understanding that you hold the power to overcome it all, but also create the life you want for yourself. It is about realizing that you had this power right from the very beginning, but it had been overpowered by all the noise in your head. Ultimately, the book is about taking the journey of personal healing so you can grow into your purpose and really be the person you were born to be. In memory of my late cousin, Milton Pearson Jr., rest in peace. His last words on Facebook before his passing will be the last words I will leave you with. In all life throws at you, keep on pushing on. Keep your head up. The Journey to an Undefeated Mind is a book based on my own personal experience battling against mental health. Yolanda Lear, sorry. Do it again.
Like King Lear.
That last part again. King Lear. The Journey to an Undefeated Mind is a book based on my own personal experiences battling against mental health. Yolanda Lear. Tell us about this powerful piece of art. Tell us about the journey, again, before writing, on the way to writing the book, and what the book's about.
So I would say the journey just before I wrote was literally that people call it a breakdown, mental health breakdown. I prefer to just say breakthrough. I think at the time I would 100% agree that it was a breakdown. So I think at the time I would definitely say that, I would agree that it was called a breakdown at the time, a mental health breakdown, and it was after, I would say, my grandma and my cousin passed, and they passed 4 months between each other, and both the cancer as well.
Sorry.
Thank you. And at the time, even before that, I'd lost quite a few loved ones, both to mainly cancer, a few to gang violence, and then others just to like other sicknesses, and one in particular to suicide as well. And
that's a tough one.
then obviously losing my grandma and my cousin, and then going through homelessness as well in that period of time. I think that just the reality of life kind of just hit me all at once. Thankfully, I was able to get temporary accommodation quite quickly, so that was like probably the first time I'd been alone. Like I always kind of felt alone growing up, but being alone when there's no one else there, that was the first time for me. And I'm a person, I like to be able to sit in silence. People might find that weird, but I find peace in that. But at that time, I couldn't do that, and I think it was at the time where I was sitting in silence, I recognised that something's wrong. I need to change something. Like I know deep down that the abilities that I have, the talents, the skills, I should be somewhere else in life. I should be working or doing something productive. I wasn't doing none of that. I was spending most of the time just in my house. And it was in that time period I just started asking the question, like, why do I feel like this? How do I stop feeling like this? And it's weird, might sound weird to others, but I would do things like literally type it in on YouTube, like, how do you stop feeling crazy? Or like, how do you...
Some people pray to God by saying, God, can you ask, where's God? You know what I mean? On Google, so yeah, it's not...
but it was like, in doing that,
when you're at your lowest, it's kind of, just need answers, isn't it? So,
But then obviously there's a ton of videos that come up, so obviously I'm not the only person that searching those kind of questions. And in doing that, that's when I started like going down the motivational videos and listening to like your Steve Harvey's, your Denzel Washington's, what's his name, what's his surname, Les Brown. Is it Les Brown?
Yeah.
That was one of my favourites.
Spelled L-E-Z, yeah? I know you're talking about
at the time.
Like from Goldsmiths, isn't it?
At the time, I was just constantly watching mainly his videos, and I'm not going to try butcher saying her name again, but...
Yolanda Lear.
Yeah.
I hope I'm saying it right. going with the flow.
I would watch a lot of like interviews from her, and then that's when I started getting into reading again, because at the time it was I was living like Lordship Lane, like Wood Green, borderline Tottenham, and they had forgot the name of the books that
New Beacon Bookshop, Fizzer Bar?
it was group of guys that will come with their story.
Oh, Suleiman.
Black
Yeah,
Child.
big up Suleiman for Black Child promotion. Suleiman. Yeah.
And that's when I got
At the
tapping
tube
into the
station,
power.
Seven Sisters, yeah.
I got that book, Tapping Into the Power Within, and obviously The Secret. I think someone brought me that, and I was just reading those books, and that kind of just unlocked my mind for a lot of things, like how I was feeling. That's why I changed it to having a breakdown to a breakthrough, because you have to go through that stage of unleashing, letting go, releasing what's been holding you down, recognizing that most of it is just like a strain. It is literally just a chain, a mental chain that's holding you, that's got it basically locked.
So was you being told by people around you that I know you said you was alone, but was you being told by people around you that you was having a breakdown? Or is that something you discovered within yourself?
I think it's something after a while that I discovered. I did end up going to like the GP.
And sorry, do you own even the word, the terminology breakdown? Do you own it?
Say that again?
Do you own the terminology breakdown? So do you even see it as a breakdown? Because based on what you're saying, you don't see it as a breakdown.
I think now I would say it was a breakthrough. I think
I
at the time I would probably say, yeah, I'm having a breakdown. Like this is what it feels like.
I love that.
Because growing up, I would hear like family members say that about other family members, such as my dad.
It has a negative connotation.
It does.
And it makes you look down on the people who are suffering with the so-called breakdown.
Yeah.
And I could definitely relate to that growing up, the connotations that go with that. So I get you.
There's a lot of them as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So for me, it was like, I think that's what kind of made me feel away as well, is the connotations, the stereotypes of. I remember telling people that I'm not okay, but I'm working on myself. And at the time, I was trying to get into music, and people around me was like saying things like, "Oh, you can't use that your personal life as an excuse, or your mental health as an excuse to not strive." Or they would say things like, there's someone in Africa who doesn't have anything and they're still making the most out of their life.
As if that's meant to be inspiring to your situation.
Exactly.
And you're dealing with the mental battle that you're dealing with.
Exactly.
Which needs to be understood, not dismissed when someone's expressing it. So,
So
this is what the theme of the book is about as well. You express a lot of that within the book, and you tap into what it really is to have a breakthrough rather than a breakdown, because having a breakdown is people judging you as being less than able to manage with the world, and that's not always a weakness.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes they think you're weak because you break down. That's why a lot of people don't open up based on being seen as a weakness. But it's not, and that's why I love the fact that you've taken the wording and rearrange it to break free even within your book. I commend it. But I wanted to read something. Sorry to cut you before we carry on, because if I don't read it, I don't want to forget, because you are a poet first. And I want to honour this poem here, because this is a poem which I liked within the book. So I'm going to quickly read it. It's called The First Round. It's chapter 3, The Journey to an Undefeated Mind. The first round. They see me smile, but not the scars beneath the skin. They hear me laugh, but cannot see the pain that lays within. Is it that well hidden, or are they just that oblivious? It is a question that constantly lingers at the back of my mind, like to say it lives there, though I do not remember no tenancy agreement. But for some reason I cannot seem to go through with the eviction. I cannot get these thoughts out of my mind. This pain feels like it is embedded into my bloodline. I asked my creator, why me? He said, why not you? I was left with more confusion than answers. Like, why am I chosen? For this life, a life where I just feel broken. Now you are trying to tell me I am the token. Boy, you must be joking. I am far from it. got this cover over my head. Isolated in this dark room, I am not coming out of this cave. It understands me more than I do. You'll be foolish into thinking I'm the one. I am not Neo. You can't see no way out. It is like happiness took a drought. Is there an electric shortage because that light is dimming down? Forcing me stay in this dark room for now. Trapped in a moment of time, but I wish I wasn't trapped in this moment for time. Though this moment of darkness made me look deeper into my mind. Made me realize that I am in fact that luminous light. It is down to me to change the room from darkness to bright. But I have to really want it. I have to be prepared to fight. It is all or nothing if I really want this undefeated mind. Written by Yolanda Lear.
Powerful.
That was a powerful piece from your book, The Journey to an Undefeated Mind. Do you want to tell us a bit more about it? I just had to cut you to read it because I think it's a powerful poem.
Thank you. Yeah, as I mentioned at the start of the whole interview, like music, poetry has always been like my way out, my main kind of way out, and obviously writing the book was to be honest, it came naturally and easy, but I always want to add that creative element into it, and then that piece in particular, it was like literally just the questions I had in that space of time where I was going through, I guess, that breakthrough of recognizing that everything that I go through and been through has its purpose, and even if you can't see it at the time,
I'm not crying, by the way. My eyes are just stinging.
that's cool. Even if you can't see it at the time, exactly what the purpose is.
It could make you cry though, just for the note. Sorry, I'm listening at the same time. I don't want to cut the people from hearing what I'm saying, but the poem was powerful enough to make you cry. Maybe it's my subconscious spirit crying, because all of a sudden my eyes just started stinging. I don't know why. So yeah. Yeah, but sorry, continue please.
That's cool. Yeah, so I was saying, like, I think that poem kind of reflected the questions and I guess the mindset that I had in that breakthrough kind of period of questioning why am I feeling like how I'm feeling, but then also questioning like why not me, why shouldn't I be chosen for this path, why shouldn't I be chosen for this purpose, or
why shouldn't you be chosen to be down? Because they say it's all about perspective in your mind, and that's where the battle starts. So there is a saying, when you're down, the only way is up. And it's not really an optimistic perspective. People say just being optimistic. No, that's the reality. If you're being a realistic person, realism, then the only way is up. Or sideways. But how long can you go sideways for?
Exactly.
So
So yeah, it was just, as I said, coming to that realization and then recognizing, I guess, the power that I generally do have, and recognizing that I don't need the validation from anyone in this world to tell me that I have that power, to tell me that I have an undefeated mind, to even show me to a degree how to unlock that undefeated mind, because it's my journey, it's my path. No one else can walk my path, and I can't walk nobody else's path.
for sure.
So yeah, it was just like that poem in particular was like a mixture of basically that.
The beauty of this book for me is not only that it goes in line with a lot of the themes of mental health, how to overcome personal battles. It's relatable to many others in their own life, even if it's not a story of their own, because it teaches you. So you have poems in sections, and then you have stories of experiences, and then you also have parts where people can do the work and question themselves. So it's a tool book, but also a book to read, and also a poetic book. So you've crammed it all in there. But on the mental health perspective, what I like about it is like the same analogy I gave about when you're down, the only way is up. The way I visualize that is being in a big ditch and like Joseph's brothers in the Bible, and they threw him in a hole, and he can't get out, like, or being trapped in a well, and you just can't get out. But what I like about this book is that it allows that person to be that person in the well, and realize that no, the only way to get out is to sit down and think it's on me.
Yeah.
And that's the power of this book, I wanted to say.
Appreciate it.
Anything else you want to add?
I think, yeah, just kind of touching on that as well, is like, for me, it was recognizing that at the time I didn't have anyone but myself. And that's not to say that there weren't
people that love or care.
There
Or
were,
yeah.
but I had to pull myself up. I had to do the hard work. I had to uproot the traumas and heal the inner child and show it some love, and I had to do all of that pretty much myself. Yes, other people had a helping hand in that, but I still had to go to them to get that helping hand. I still had to reach out to them. So there's still that element of me having to do the work to get
again,
that help.
I want to cut you on that because another big up her, I'm going to keep bigging her up because she's so amazing. Yolanda Lear, and as you're saying, do the work, I'm hearing her in my ears and other people who use those words, do the work. Yes, essential. But I think it's key for acceptance to come before everyone talks about doing the work.
Definitely.
We have to realize that people don't always accept their situation. So the fact that you could accept that, yeah, I'm actually in a hole. I have no one. I'm not running to alcohol to consume myself with this, or to I'm actually questioning now, why am I here? So that's the acceptance. You can't do the work without acceptance. So I love to do the work concept, but that's why I mentioned DMX before. You have to get people to understand. For me, everyone's got their own ways of looking at how to address it, but I feel like a person has to accept that they're an addict before they can get their help for whatever it is. So you have to accept that you're lowest and you need some support, and, or you could do with some support. So I commend you for the way you broke this book down. I think it's amazing. Yeah. And at your age as well. Shouldn't ask a lady at age, but I asked you earlier, and you're like 10 years younger than me, so 28 to 29, and I'm like, so it's exceptional what you're doing at this age, and understanding the power of the mind. And, yeah.
Appreciate it. I think, I just think it's an important thing that people need to understand. You know, the mind is the key to unlock any door that you're trying to go down for your path. If you can release the shackles of your mind, then you release the shackles so that your inner child free.
Yeah.
And then once your inner child is free and you've got the balance of the knowledge, the wisdom, the experience that you've gained as an adult or as a teenager, and the freedom of being free as a child, and you have that balance, then there's no telling like where you can go in life. And that's ultimately the concept of having that undefeated mind, is recognizing all of that and just keep going.
Powerful stuff. I find it really interesting. Everyone talks about the inner child in terms of therapy and healing and doing the work. Sankofa bird, African thing, in terms of going back to fix. I think it's so important. But I just wish I knew this when I was younger, because I feel like I come from a time where we were driving before 16, riding mopeds before 16, laying down with people before 16, making people lay down before 16, getting into a whole heap of stuff. And I'm like, when I reflect, I'm like, that was like boys to men rushing to be men, or girls rushing to be women. And now a lot of those people are there. The mask is on, but it needs to come off now in order for them to, and they have to go back to the time when they were rushing to be old and figure out what they were rushing to be old for, to get in touch with that inner child, to free the older them. And I think, right, is that the Da Vinci Code to life? Is this what it's been all this time?
Authentic self.
So yeah, I said to my son, I said to my children, we was all taught when we were younger, don't rush to be old, you know. My grandma used to say all the time, don't get big too quick. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I didn't. I got big way too quick. So I relate with this, and having, for me, it struck through chords, and for those who are going to read it, you don't need to have mental health yourself. Although we all have mental health. Every human being has physical and mental health. So I say mental health like mental health the condition. You don't need to have mental illness in order to read this book. It could be someone within your family. Sorry, you don't need to have a mental illness to read this book. It could be someone within your family. And growing up with a parent with mental health, this struck a chord for me. Because mental illness has destroyed my family. It's destroyed it, and I have, I'm not going to share too much, but I have a book on the subject, touching on mental health. So yeah, I can relate a lot to the things in the book based on mental illnesses destroying my family. Growing in a house with mental illness and becoming an adult and only understanding as an adult, not understanding as a child, not understanding my mother's journey, judging her for the ways she raised me, judging her violent behaviours, her outlashes that came from a place of trauma without knowing, her own trauma, growing up as a child and just not knowing. But when I put myself in her shoes, now I'm an adult, and I look at the child within her, ooh, painful, scared, frightened, but covered with, if any man touches me, I'll kill him. Any man puts his hand on me, I'll kill him. She witnessed a lot of domestic violence. And the witness sounds like it was my gran. Rest in peace. Because she wasn't one to sit down and tolerate. And I heard, rest in peace, Nanny. I can feel like you're with me right now. I feel like I just remembered something. One of my aunts told me that my nan featured in a book, not under her name, but as a sufferer of domestic violence. And it triggered everything in my head. She told me this about 2 years ago. I was like, wow, that explains how deep the violence was in my house. My mum's house, that she witnessed. And being an older sibling, yeah, my gran, let's just say, I don't even know how to say this. Let's just say weapons were used to defend herself in that kitchen. And my mum experienced a lot of it. Just talking about it, putting me in her position. And not just that, I feel like a topic that a lot of people don't discuss with that Windrush era is that a lot of them struggled with identity. And if you weren't raised in London, if you was in like quiet side of England where she was being the only black child in the school, those things could mess with as well as whatever you're seeing at home. So there's so much in terms of, for me, I think mental health is a conversation for the black people especially. I think that this book is important, but my concern is, and I don't say concern, it's not really a concern, it's because the podcast is called Don't Judge the Book by the Author, which obviously entails the title. When you look at that statement, do you feel like it was judged by the author or by the title? Because maybe mental health can be triggering probably to some people.
I think if you look at like the front of the book, there's nothing really on here that says mental health until you read the blurb at the back. So it's kind of one of those ones where it's like, if you actually see it, you're probably more intrigued to find out what this book is about.
I love the cover, by the way.
Thank you. But then when I do have the conversations, or if I am like, let's say, speaking to someone and they haven't seen the book and I tell them I've written about mental health, or then it's like, okay, well, not really trying to hear that, or I'm a black person talking about mental health. In a black community, it's not something that we like to talk about. It is something that it seems a curse.
Just like books, just like us writing books. So this is a new, I call it a renaissance on one of the other interviews, because it's like, it's not really known for black authors in UK to have so much. When I was writing, so it's all taboo, the subject of mental health.
Yeah, no, definitely. So obviously that, the mixture of being a black female author, being a black author, being an author who speaks about mental health, talking about...
Can I ask you one question? This is something in the back of my mind, you know, and it made me think about how people saw me. Because when you said the battle of the mind, I think it wasn't, obviously I'm a black man, I'm not going to judge you for being a black woman as a writer, and I'm an author. But ageism, did ageism play a part? Because I know some people might think, okay, well, what do you know about life? Let's say you're 20, 30 years older than me, and someone's talking about mindset, and they might assume this person can't teach me anything. Now, I know that wasn't a judgment for me, but maybe that was a judgment for other people. Did you find that that could possibly be a barrier? And if so, just before you answer that, I'll say to anyone older listening, don't judge a book by the author. That's all I'm going to say as why you should read that. But
now to answer the question, I think because I came into being an author as a self-published author, so the publicity and having like publishers and all that support wasn't necessarily there. Most of the people that came across my book initially were either people within my circle or like family friends or like friend of a friend sort of thing who just support because my family have posted about it or that sort of thing. But then I've also found that I think my age in it slightly helped in terms of, okay, I was 25 when I wrote the book, released it when I was 26, literally like months apart, but at the time it's like, okay, what do you have to say? And then because of, I guess, the work I do and coming from being like a public speaker in that voluntary sector, people were intrigued to basically read what it is I had to say. And as a young person speaking about mental health, I think this was in the midst of the lockdown and the pandemic, so mental health was a trendy topic at the time. Everything kind of played a part. It helped in a sense.
For sure. So what I really want to ask you is, everyone seems to sound like they're talking about going down this self-publishing independent route. Is there a reason for that? Because one of the main questions I ask in this platform is, do you believe black authors get a fair shot in the book industry in the UK? And would you say that they're taken seriously? But it sounds like a lot of people go self-publishing like yourself because they maybe don't get that support within the industry. Is that the case with yourself?
I think I personally went down this path because I didn't know anything about the book game as a whole. And then when I was doing research or asking people about like getting a publisher, it was like, oh, it's very difficult, or what you're writing about, they might not necessarily push it. Or
so we saying that, and we are saying that. Let me stop beating around the bush. Publishers judge the book by the author as well, not just the readers.
Oh yeah, definitely.
How is it?
Definitely. I think that's a huge bit why you won't have a lot of authors from the black community within those kind of big name publishers, unless they're either talking about a trendy topic like...
I'm going to flip this question because the way I usually ask it sounds a certain way, but I usually say, do you believe that the black community care enough about writing or reading to support their local authors? Now, as a business, if I was European and black books don't sell, it's not a racist thing, it's just merely business. That black books don't sell, you lot are only 3% within the country, XYZ, cool. But, okay, I'm playing devil's advocate a bit here. But and I don't like to play devil anything, let me take that back. I'm looking at it from both sides. Me publishing a black author might not allow me to recoup whatever I put in unless that book is marketable for the wider Britain. So could it merely be that the publishers are holding this whole thing back by judging the book by its author, or is it that something we have to take ownership in? I know my own reasons, ownership in terms of where we.
I think there's a element of both to that. I think when it comes to the black community, you would find a lot of us actually do read, and there are a lot of like vivid readers within the black community, but we can't always find books that relate to us.
That's true.
But then, even if, like, let's say your book, for instance, we take it to young people, they can relate to it because it's how they talk, it's how they communicate with each other, it's what they've been through, it's they know someone who's been through it. They're more inclined to probably read that than maybe these books, The Secret or Art from Her, or even Tapping into the Power Within, because it's not their language per se. But I also feel like publishers kind of use that as an excuse to not give opportunities to those within the black community, because you don't know until you actually put it out there. I mean, you look at New Beacon Books, for instance. Yes, okay, they've had their struggles in staying open, and that's a whole wider topic as well. But a lot of people respect the fact that there's a bookshop, a bookshop that they could go to where they're gonna find books in that shop that are written by people who looked at them, come from places like them.
Sure.
So I think it's giving them the opportunity. You can't necessarily write off a whole community of saying, oh, we don't read enough, or we've been forced to read Of Mice and Men, or To Kill a Mockingbird growing up in school. We've never had books that necessarily relate to us from a young age. So then we're going to struggle to keep that kind of...
And I think there's so many components as to why we're not into reading, or why, well, to be fair, let me not state it like that. We're getting back into reading.
Yeah.
And like, so a book like Prison to the Street, although it was a lot of young people reading it, a lot of people will suggest that it's a book written for young people. We'll be like, no, there's a lot of adults who read it, who are even older than me, much older than me, and they read that book and they took it from the adult perspective. So there is an adult perspective to give within it. It's written in a duality. And I've never said that before. It's only from speaking to you, it's making me think about understanding how that book was written on a deeper level. Because it's young people is the language, but the philosophy and the concept is the intellectual side. So there's a duality, and you can read it as an adult and still gain something from it. From understanding how young people think, that's the duality. So for me, I don't want to label all black authors as people who talk street slang, and that's what I'm trying to get away from. That book was for a specific audience to get them to more read, but I don't think all books by black authors, especially for myself, won't be written in that dialect. So there's not like the whole of New Beacons. Just for anyone who has never read black books, disclaimer, just a quick disclaimer, we don't all write in street dialects, and that's the problem that we're having here, people not knowing the types of books that we have available on the stores. But again, big up New Beacon. Yeah, so we've talked about the journey to an undefeated mind, and we've talked about the industry not being so great, and I think that's important for people to know, not because I want to sound mundane with the same questions, but I feel like it's important that every author has sounded like they've had the similar experience without talking to each other, about publishing and about the industry. But enough of the complaining. I'm not even complaining because we're not complaining, we're discussing. Enough of discussing the problems, resolving solutions. How do you think we can change that and improve that while we're writers in our time, that writing becomes a thing that is more the common to everyone, not young people. Let's not put on young people, everyone does that to everyone.
I think it's a collective community thing, not just down to the writers. I think it starts in the households from young, ensuring that your young people are reading books, but it's about you doing the research as well as the parents or the carers or aunties and uncles who are black authors, who are people from the area that are actually writing. How can I then introduce my children or my nieces and nephews or my younger cousins or even the older generation, that how can I introduce them to these authors, and then make it something that's just common practice, just like how they would sit down and read Harry Potter or another book in the household, or you might take trips to W.H. Smith or one of those kind of, do the same, go to places like New Beacon Books, go to Black Child promotions and
Seven Sisters.
Like, I think there was another store, I'm not sure the name, so I won't mention it, but there are other places where you can get these books, and then some of the authors have their own like websites and they're selling the books directly to support them. Like, I would say now, obviously, I don't have physical copies of my book, but the more you're supporting the authors, especially those that don't have publishers, to be able to actually go out and order more books.
That's a very good point that you're making.
For me, that's one of my struggles about not having enough books and then having to tell people, I'll go to Amazon. Like, don't get me wrong, go to Amazon and order it because I don't have copies, but I would prefer that that money comes straight
100%.
to me, because then I can then give back, I can order more books, 100%. I can do other things with that money, which is going to support our community even more. Amazon ain't going to support our community like that. So it's just little things that we could change in terms of general practices.
100.
So
100%. I think you're 100% right. Yeah.
That changes that. And as I said, in the households, ensuring that your kids from young, like, there's a few
take reading as seriously as they know anything else.
Literally.
And I think that's so important in the house. And I know a child doesn't like it, but you have to ask yourself, are you here to be your child's friend or your child's parent? And making it fun is important. But even if you can't make it fun, I'll be honest with you, not George Jackson type of mentality, but let's say however healthily you can find a way. But I don't think no should be an option. Because I think when we was younger, Saturday school, things like that, there wasn't an option. It was you just did.
It's true. But when I say like make it fun, for instance, I mean things like, okay, you're telling your child to read. Sit down, read with them. Create a time of the day where this is family time. We're gonna do 15 minutes today or half an hour of reading today. Then after that you go and do something else, or just before you have dinner. Iron
sharpeneth iron, that way you both get to learn something, you get to bond, not just with a relationship, you're bonding through reading, and that's something that some people have told me that Prison to the Streets did for them, and Mama Can't Raise No Man. I heard a woman tell me she read that book of her son, and I was blown away. I was like, the dynamic of that is unbelievable, and that's what I wanted to go on to ask you as well about your book reviews. Was there any review that or a moment like that stood out to you that made you say this is it?
Yeah, I had a couple. One from another interview that I was reading, and it's older person to me. She was reading it. Someone who's read quite a lot of books in her lifetime. She read it and she basically said like, this book is like the blueprint to overcoming mental health.
Wow.
And when I heard that was like, okay. But also it's like, I didn't mention this earlier, I wrote this in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's why I mentioned about it being spiritual, is that the first paragraph of the introduction came to me in my sleep, and that's usually what happens when I'm writing like poetry or whatever. And I was writing that, wrote it out, notepad and pen. I weren't too fond on writing for tablet just yet, but I like to start off writing pad and pen. There's just a beauty in that. I don't know what it is, but I was writing that, and as I'm writing out the introduction, it's like, okay, this is not poetry, this is not something that I can turn into a song. I just need to leave it as it is and continue to write from that. And then just off the back of that, like 2 weeks later, the whole book was done. But it was like, there's times where even I go back and I read the book and I'm like, oh, I actually wrote that. Like,
it came out.
But yeah, it's like in that as well, other people, when they hear, okay, you wrote that when you're 25, you wrote it in 2 weeks, it's like, okay. And then they read the book and it's like, you're talking to me. Like, I gave it to a person who deals with like PTSD, but recently come out of jail, and I just told him to read the introduction. He read the introduction, he's like, I can't read this, like, I'm gonna sit here and cry. I said, take it and read it in your own time when you're ready. He started sitting down and actually reading it.
So did you feel sorry that was a judgment on the book by the author, not the author, by the theme, because it was about mental health? Do you think it was too close to home for him at the time?
Yeah, I think initially, but then also like everything I was saying was like,
helped him overcome that, and that's why I brought you here today, to help people overcome any barriers in wanting to read this book. But you were saying about the young man.
Yeah, so he was literally, like, he took it eventually. I did have to persuade him a bit, but it's, as you said, accepting being ready to face reality, and this is my truth.
Before doing the work, before the keywords, the keywords of doing the work.
Exactly.
It's accepting that this is my reality. I think that needs to be the new keyword, and don't plagiarize me. I'm saying here today, all copyrights, mate. It's you have to be ready to do the work. You have to accept, before doing the work, you have to accept your reality. You can't just jump into doing the work. And I think for me, that was the hardest part of any part of mental struggle I've had in my life, any area. It's accepting, okay, you're struggling there. Own it. Okay, now I've owned it, now I can do the work. But what does that look like? What does the work look like? Because everyone keeps saying do the work like it's applying for a job. What does the work look like, and how long does this job last?
It's a good question.
And do I have to work at nights? Do I work day? What's the shifts? Because it seems like it's a 24-hour thing and it's affecting my other work. So doing the work needs to be also, again, because therapy, it's like everything's become cool. Race has become a cool topic instead of dealing with the reality. Therapy's become a cool topic rather than, I won't say dealing with the reality, but I won't even get into that one right now. But it was a trigger for me, but I never judged the book by its author. And I wanted to ask you if you ever judged any book by the author, consciously or subconsciously. Even thinking about it.
I don't know if I could say by the author, per se. Because I don't, unless your author's name is big bold like that, I don't necessarily look for like who wrote this. I'll look at the cover and be like, okay, is this interesting? And then I usually just go straight to the blurb. And if I'm not intrigued by that, or there's nothing that really pulls me, then I'm like, right, well, let me just leave that. But saying that, in school, given books, because I know instantly what the author is, more times I probably would be like, I'm not really trying to read this, because it's going to be nothing to do with where I come from, what I'm going through. It's probably even talking about us in a negative way. Not really trying to indulge in that, but we didn't necessarily have a choice in school. But I don't think I have. But again, do I go out and actually get books and look at books enough to even give myself the opportunity to judge? I don't know if I do that enough.
And that's something I want to own as well. Before I get into the next part, we'll talk about how we need to read more as an author. My journey into reading more came from writing. So if I didn't become an author, I probably wouldn't read as much as I'm begun to read, and I feel like that's done a disservice to me in life, not just as entertainment value, just in life. And that's why I say I'm gonna keep ringing along this thing of this is time for us as a people, and I don't just mean black people. Again, the working class. It's time for us, everyone, middle class, everyone, to start reading books of all backgrounds, because it can't just be fair that we come to Waterstones to buy your books, but you don't come to New Beacons, and then it keeps us out of the market for who are the books to be looking out for, the authors to be looking out for. So I feel like that's important. Now, this book is called Undefeated Mind, and I ask this question to everyone, but it's kind of funny I have to ask this question to you because of the title. Did writing this book affect your mental health in any way, positively or negatively?
I'll probably say positively, because
I thought so.
it kind of gave me that freedom to release, but also I think it, as I mentioned, like everything just happened so quickly in terms of writing it. So I don't think when I was writing it, I gave myself the time to really, like, obviously I proofread and all of that, but to really take in the book. So it's afterwards, now the book's out and published and whatnot, I'm reading it and then I'm like, okay, this is actually helping my journey, or I've been able to put on paper what was frustrating my mind for so long, in terms of recognising that there's things I've been through, for instance, in the past that I may have felt like I'd forgotten about and gotten over.
Just put in a box deep down and locked it up, and
but then I've come across someone random and they've said something to me, and instantly I'm now triggered, I'm emotional.
Jack in the box, you put it in the box, it comes out.
Yeah, so it's like, for me, I think it's helped me to recognise the journey that I've been on,
Love that.
and to appreciate also the journey that I've been on, because going on that journey has given me like a sense of understanding of life that I don't think I would have had if I didn't have the breakdown or go through the breakthrough. Yeah, because now I can recognise, okay, if things keep going wrong in my life, then I've either got people in my life that don't need to be there, or I've got some healing to do.
Yeah.
And it's usually just as simple as that, those two things. You've got people around you that you don't need to be around, and it's not that they are negative people, it's just for where you're going in your life or your purpose, they don't need to be there, and vice versa.
You're catching flights to different directions.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense. No one's judging them for where they're going. They're just not going to the same destination.
Exactly. Or is that element of, okay, I've got some healing to do, and it's like I always kind of use the concept or the ideology of the analogy, sorry, of when you're about to take a jump to where you want to go in life. So let's say my next step is to start another business. That's where I want to jump. I'm about to take the jump, but I'm realising I keep falling, or I keep crashing. Why is that? I've got weight on me mentally, but it's weighing me down. So I know I need to release something, whether it's within me, whether it's people around me, in order to be able to make that jump. So yeah, that's what this book has basically been able to help me do.
Again, people say no more. I think this book's kind of spoken for itself. So anyone who's intrigued, it's going to keep showing you the cover. Now, you said it took 2 weeks to write. It probably took longer to organise the book launch if you had one. But I don't think you did have one.
No.
It would have probably taken a lot longer to organise the book launch than to write the book. So that is commendable within itself. It's an achievement, and there's so many things that we don't see along the journey, but writing a book within 2 weeks, I don't know, I can't remember how much pages. I know it wasn't a big read in terms of a long read to write. It was easy to read. It wasn't a big book, but it's considered a book. And writing a book isn't the amount of pages you write. It's the it's the content of which you write, which tells the story beginning, middle, and end. And for me, you achieved that. So well done again. But yeah, I've already asked you about your best book review. One of the last questions I want to ask you is, do you have any more books that you plan to write in the future, or any forms of writing that you plan to do in the future that you want to share with us today?
I do. I wanna write another book, but it's more one that I feel like I need to do a bit more studying.
Yeah.
On it's actually off the back of post-traumatic slave syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGroy.
I'm gonna pass that book over as well since you mentioned it. I've met this lady. She's a lovely lady. She signed this book for me as well, actually.
Yeah.
So I don't always big her up because I forget. But big up. Powerhouse of a woman, Joy DeGroy. So yeah, Joy DeGroy, I want to big her up again, actually. For post-traumatic slave syndrome. Wow, I'm more thinking of post-traumatic street syndrome, because I was inspired by this lady when I wrote Freedom from the Street to explain the psychology of post-traumatic street syndrome, and this is off the back of reading Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. So big up Joy DeGroy. Yeah, you were saying?
Yeah, so basically I want to do something which is like, it's a concept of understanding that trauma that we experience is embedded in us right from our mother's womb, and it's based on the trauma that they experienced that is unhealed, and the trauma that their parents have experienced that's also unhealed, and it's passed down within the womb of a mother. And until we start breaking those cycles and those barriers, then we're going to continue to have young people in even primary school not knowing how to really express themselves, because what I want to really touch on is you have obviously the trauma, I call it the womb, the cocoon of trauma, which is your mother's womb that you're in. As you get out, especially within communities of, I don't want to just say the black community, but low household incomes, where you're not allowed to experience pain and trauma because you're going through so much as it is. As a young person, especially as a young male, you're told not to express your emotions.
Can I suggest, this sounds great, sorry, and you're triggering me off. I don't know if I should say this or not. I don't think it matters. Can I suggest that we said do more research on it, which is good. And before I suggest anything, you said you read Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Did you
I haven't read it. I've watched a lot of her. So it's one book that I do want to read.
Read this one. This one research. Again. This one I can't remember where it got. Yeah, from Joy herself. They got Stafford Scott for that link up. I met her in person. But I would say to you, don't forget childbirth when you're looking at trauma.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's what I wanted to suggest, because personally, and again, I've had to learn through dealing with my mental health about the separation of me and my mum from birth, in terms of why we've never had a good relationship. And I was born premature, and I didn't see her for a good while afterwards, because she wasn't in the best of space when I was born, so we were both fighting for life. And I think that umbilical cord being cut might separate, but if you don't, and they say, as well psychologists say, if a mother doesn't bond with the child straight away, get to hold her child straight away, there can be a massive disconnect.
Yeah, it's attachment theory.
Attachment theory, and I believe that is traumatic.
Yeah.
For both parties involved,
definitely.
And they probably won't ever know, even in talking about it, because especially a child, when they're born, they're not going to remember the second they're born. Some people say they have seen the documentary, but anyway, I don't remember. But I'm like, it's very important for me, because the stages that you're going into now, I believe that the whole birthing process whether it's a cesarean, whether it was natural birth, whether the mother was able to bond with the child, whether there's so much that goes into it, and then for me, this part starts, which you're going to get into, and I think it's very important that you're going to go on to write a book like this, because they say if you want to see a film or book you haven't read or watched before, then write it and watch it, write it yourself basically, so you can get to watch it and read it yourself. And I respect you for doing the first one. I respect what you're about to do with the second one, without saying too much, because even what I've suggested, you probably need notes of these things, so I don't want to undermine in suggesting, and that's why I said I should say it off air. But I'm like, to cover these things, everyone talks about these conversations, mental health, all these things, but how many people take the information, do the research, and present it to the broader audience? So it's like what you're almost doing the work for the wider community, as well as trying to heal yourself. And I see that. I see what I'm going to say. Some people don't see the bigger picture to what someone's doing and what they're driven by. So yeah, just wanted to commend you on that. Sorry to keep interrupting as well. But, I feel like one of those guys that I don't want to say. I was saying Charlie Sloth. No, I'm joking. Yeah, sorry for interrupting, but the thing that you're saying just triggering off more ideas for me in my head. But yeah, as you were saying.
Yeah, no. So it's basically that concept, and I want to bring it. As I said, my main focus, I feel like, will be based around young men, or men in general, and that affects, because I feel like right from birth, you know, kids are told, "Are you a big boy? Big boys don't cry," or "Be a man," or these kind of phrases that get thrown around consistently, even as a young child, and then I don't think people recognize just how damaging it is. Like, if you tell a child not to express themselves, even before they get to primary school, then when they're now in primary school, they're going to struggle to express themselves. Then you're going to call them the hard-to-reach child, or the naughty one, etc. But they also recognize the only time they're seen or heard is when they misbehave, is when they act up, etc. So that's what they're going to do. And then get to secondary school and it's the same thing. Teachers tell you, stop acting up, stop seeking attention, etc. You have the world telling you, you're a man, or you're a big boy, or you're a teenager, you shouldn't be crying, you shouldn't be upset, why are you expressing your emotions? Like, you're only allowed to be happy, but you're not allowed to express the negative side of it. So I wanted to basically do a book on how, like, one, dangerous it is, but also why we have so much young people that are